Heaven Official's Blessing. Chapter 127. Audio source: wuxia-world-audiobook.com. Mount Tonglu reopens, all demons aroused. Judging from his expression, it seemed as if his right eye was throbbing and in an overwhelming amount of pain. Xie Lian instantly sprung forward. "Are you okay?" The corner of Hua Cheng's mouth twitched, but he forced the words back. The silver eyes engraved on top of Yi Ming's hilt snapped open and the eyeballs started to spin wildly. Veins popped along the surface of the hand that Hua Cheng rested on top of the altar, threatening to flip the table at any second. Xie Lian reached out his hand, wanting to help, but Hua Cheng growled, "Stay back." Seeing Xie Lian freeze, Hua Cheng gritted out through his teeth, "Your Highness, please, hurry and get away from me." "I might." Xie Lian cut him off. "How can you tell me to leave when you're like this?" Hua Cheng said, his voice nothing but gentle. "If you were to stay here any longer, I..." In that instant, waves after waves of demon howls and cries sounded from outside the Qiandang temple. Demons were doubling over on the Ghost City main street, bawling their eyes out, clutching their heads and wailing, as if their skulls had split open and they were on the verge of death. Amidst the chaos, Qi Rong was sprinting fast AEAD. Due to the fact that he was possessing a human's body, although the flesh body had diminished his powers, it also acted as a protective barrier against any demon-effective attacks. It was solely because of this that Qi Rong was still jumping about resiliently and seizing this chance to flee. The group of female ghosts that were cradling Jiuzi had now fallen onto the ground and crying about their headaches. Unable to sing their hypnotic melody, Jiuzi groggily woke up only to see Qi Rong bolting away like a madman. He jumped to his feet and chased after him while yelling, "Dad, Dad, wait for me." As he ran, Qi Rong turned around, stuck out his tongue and made a face. "Lula, good boy, Dad's leaving." Ha. Yet Jiuzi still chased after him, relentlessly with his two small pair of legs. Seeing that the distance between them has grown bigger, he broke out in tears. "Dad, please don't throw me away. Dad, take me with you." Qi Rong spat out continuously. Get lost. Don't follow me." What a nuisance. A drop of his spit flew so far that it hit Jiuzi on the forehead and knocked him down on his butt. He cried even harder, to the point as if his heart was going to break and his lungs were going to burst. Xie Lian couldn't bear it any longer and he stormed out of Qiandang Temple in anger. Qi Rong. The moment Qi Rong saw Xie Lian blocking the path in front of him, he spun around in fear and ran back the way he came from. Along the way, he scooped up Jiuzi from the ground and threatened, "Don't come any closer. Come and I'll bite off the head of this little brat before your eyes." "What a good boy, you're gonna become. Your dad's meal. How filial. Tomorrow Dad'll cook you. You can pick between being braised or steamed." Ha! Xie Lian wasn't fazed by the threat at all. However, just when he was about to give chase, a loud crash sounded behind him. As if suddenly struck by fury, Hua Cheng had swept the ink brush and paper pad off the table and to the ground. Fearing for the worst, Xie Lian couldn't afford to deal with Qi Rong and turned around. "San Lang." All of a sudden, he was embraced tightly by Hua Cheng. There was a tremble in his voice as the Supreme Ghost King whispered, "I lied. Don't leave me." Xie Lian became as still as a statue locked within the pair of strong arms. "San Lang, do you recognize me?" It seemed as if he was at a point where he had lost all senses and wasn't able to recognize who was in front of him. He clutched Xie Lian even tighter in his arms and repeatedly muttered, "I lied. Don't leave me." Xie Lian widened his eyes. Outside the temple, while Jiuzi wailed uncontrollably, Qi Rong broke out in a series of hysterical laughter. He cackled. "Hua Cheng, you fucker. That'll teach you for looking down on me all the time. Look at you, all cocky all day. Ain't this karma? You're done for." Upon hearing this, the demons on the streets, who were on the verge of exhaustion from the pain, immediately cursed back. Night touring Green Lantern. You piece of useless trash. Ya dare to swear at our Lord. The annoying ruckus going on around them drove Watching to the edge and even more infuriated. He raised his hand as if about to blast them to pieces. Instinctively, Xie Lian hugged him back to keep the hand down. He soothed. Okay, I won't leave you. With a flick of his hand, the Qiandang Temple's grand doors closed shut by themselves. To prevent Qi-Rong from busting into the temple under these circumstances, Xie Lian shooed. If you're gonna scram, then get lost. I don't have time for you. If you don't get lost, then just wait and see what all. To his surprise, Watching was unsatisfied with only a shallow embrace, and he shoved Xie Lian roughly on top of the jaded table. Ink, paper, brushes all fell and scattered across the floor. Caught up in the struggle, Xie Lian's hand accidentally glided past the ink pad stationed on the table, leaving crimson-red marks along the paper underneath him. Upon ache of separation, the two characters, Mount Wu, in the line. After Mount Wu removed, clouds are no longer clouds, was now stained with vivid blood-like markings, making it stunningly beautiful. San. Xie Lian started. Before he could finish, Watching held him by the shoulders and leaned down to kiss him. Qi-Rong, who had undoubtedly heard something that didn't sound right, laughed. Cousin Crown Prince, you better be careful. Watching is probably like a rabid dog right now, he'll bite whoever he sees. I, myself, will personally go and help you spread the news. There are quite a few monks and cultivators who seek revenge against Watching. They might as well come now and take care of him. Ah! Xie Lian's heart tightened as Qi-Rong's laughter faded in the distance. If Qi-Rong really did call forth the group of cultivators Watching had wronged, under the demon's current weakened condition, how could Ghost City defend itself? Yet, amidst all this, Watching wasn't allowing them any breaks to think. Although he wasn't alive and shouldn't emit any warmth, in this very moment, his body was burning hot, as if he was struck by a high fever. With their lips tightly pressed against each other's, Xie Lian was practically forced to accept the incoming waves of heat. The hands that were originally trying to push Watching away now sank into the folds of the red fabric near his shoulders instead. Maybe it was because Watching's spiritual energy was too strong. Xie Lian felt his throat, chest, and stomach were filled to the brim by warmth to the point that it became uncomfortable. If he continued to endure this, he might just burst under the sheer amount of power that was being poured in. He tightened his jaw and raised his palm to slap. Although he did land a blow, but because he really couldn't bring himself to hit Watching, the hand only tapped his shoulder instead, the force neither light nor heavy. Unfazed, Watching seized his wrist, held it down, and continued the attack on Xie Lian's lips. He really couldn't let this continue any further. This time, Xie Lian used both of his hands. After shoving Watching away, he fled to the side of the altar in panic, panting for breath. However, with bloodshot eyes, Watching hounded him and followed over, pressing him against the altar. Xie Lian cried, "San Lang!" Perhaps his voice did reach him, for Watching stared at his face for a long time before suddenly wrapping him in a bone-crushing hug. Seeing that he had gained some senses and stopped his advances, Xie Lian let out a sigh in relief. However, as he stood in Watching's embrace, he felt the unsettling energy inside of the supreme fighting to break out. No wonder Watching kissed him the moment he caught him. With such chaos going on internally, he had to find an outlet to expel it. Though, in order to fully return them to his normal state, blood must be drained. However, Watching wasn't alive. How would he have any blood to let? After a moment of consideration, Xie Lian came to a conclusion. "Forgive me." He cupped Watching's face and voluntarily covered the other's lips with his own, gently guiding the turbulent flow of heat into his own body, helping to ease the pain and suffering of the other. Instinctively, Watching looped his arm around Xie Lian's waist, making Xie Lian shiver just the slightest. In the next second, the two were tumbling on top of the altar. It really wasn't fair. Xie Lian wouldn't dare touch anywhere on Watching that's even slightly dangerous. Yet, because of his cloudy state of mind, Watching's fingers were roaming across every inch of his body shamelessly, making Xie Lian suffer in silent torment. This altar was originally a place where one would make offerings to a god, but it now resided a demon and a god who were entangled in a heated battle of tongues. Although preposterous, the scene was beyond breathtaking. In the past, both parties were more or less clear-headed and there was always a justifiable reason. Committing this sort of act was at least controlled, since there was nothing beyond just lips covering lips. However, this time, with the roaming hand on top of the hazy state of mind, it will exceed the boundary of only lips and teeth. In his foggy mind, Xie Lian finally realized one thing. Although every time it was out of his control and he had no choice, but in truth there was a hidden desire he couldn't hold back every time. After suffering through the entire night, the unsettling energy inside of Watching finally began to calm down. The arm that was clutching onto Xie Lian slowly released its grip. Xie Lian flipped over and sat up. Watching Watching's sleeping face, he finally sighed a breath. Thrown to the side, Yiming's single eyeball was still spinning around frantically. Xie Lian picked up the scimitar, and it was only after a long series of pets that the blade finally softened into a crescent eye smile, as if it was finally satisfied. Not long after, Watching shot up from where he was sleeping. "Your Highness." Hastily, Xie Lian adjusted his expression. He turned around and beamed. "You're awake? Everything's fine now." Watching did a quick scan around him. Needless to say, it was a giant mess inside the Qiandang temple. His face was uncharacteristically distraught, as if he couldn't remember what happened the night before. Xie Lian jumped at the chance to speak, his voice calm and confident. "What happened last night? All your subordinates were suddenly struck by either a fever or throbbing headache. Everyone was restless. You were too, and you had quite the temper." Watching demanded. "Other than that?" "Other than what? There's nothing else." Xie Lian blinked. He could feel Watching's gaze on him as the Supreme continued to grill him. Was there really nothing? Then, how did I calm down? Xie Lian softly cleared his throat, as if he was slightly embarrassed. "To tell you the truth, San Lang, please don't be mad at me. Other than doing this." He motioned at Yiming, who he was currently petting, and admitted, "I also, cough cough, had a fight with you." Watching looked at him suspiciously. "We fought?" Xie Lian held down his fort and watched him earnestly. "That's right. Look, the hall is such a mess because of our fight." There was a pause before Watching puffed a sigh in relief and rested his head on his hand. Seeing that he wasn't hounding for answers anymore, Xie Lian finally felt his suspended heart settle down after and silently released his breath. It opened. Watching muttered all of a sudden. "What did?" Xie Lian asked. Watching lifted his head, and with a somber voice, he clarified. Mount Tonglu reopened. The meaning of this announcement couldn't be clearer for the two. Xie Lian widened his eyes. A new Ghost King is about to be born. When Xie Lian returned to report in, the heavenly court was also rumbling with thunder unceasingly. Stepping into the great martial hall, Xie Lian unconsciously looked for someone to inquire. "What's the matter with Lord Thunder, Master?" But only when the words left his lips did he realize that the spot where the Wind Master once stood was now empty. The Water Master, who stood right up front, and the Earth Master, who sat in the corner, were all vacant. He was taken aback, his heart sighing. Then he looked over and saw Lang Qingchu enter the hall. Having not seen him for so long, his entire person had thinned a size, looking much gloomier. His eyes met with Xie Lian's, then turned away without a word. Xie Lian scanned around and realized he couldn't find anyone he could converse with casually. A voice answered him. It's nothing. A ghost king is about to be born. Demons cry and gods sound. The thunder will not stop. The one who responded was Feng Xin. For some reason, when Xie Lian saw him, he couldn't help but feel an incredible sense of friendliness. However, one of Feng Xin's eyes was purple, and Xie Lian couldn't help but gaze over to the Mu Qing, who was standing far away on the other side of the hall. Mu Qing's cheek was swollen. It seemed after building their grudges for so many years, the brawl the last time must have been aggressive. Zhan Wu spoke up. The reason why I've summoned everyone here today, I'm sure you're all very aware. The heavenly officials all acknowledged. Zhan Wu continued slowly. The universe is a kiln. All sentient beings are copper. In the deep waters and scalding fires, all trials breathe within. Mount Tonglu is a natural ominous land crawling with malicious tidings, a live volcano that can erupt at any given time. Every few hundred years, the city of Gu within the mountain will open its gates, and around millions of ghosts. It especially affects the previous ghost kings. Every monsters, demons, and ghosts that thirst to reach the level of supreme will make their way to Mount Tonglu. Once fathered, Mount Tonglu will be sealed once more, and the slaughtering will officially begin. When the last one remains standing, a new ghost king will be born. The crimson rain-sought flower and the ship's sinking black water are both such supreme ghost kings who were born thus. The two became supremes and emerged from the mountain. Black water spent 12 years. Hua Cheng spent 10 years. Mu Qing said coldly. One black water, one Hua Cheng are both already difficult to deal with. Just see what they've done. If another one comes along, we won't sleep. Vink. Xie Lian commented gently. General Zhang, I won't comment on what Blackwater has done. But Hua Cheng hasn't done anything really out of line. Mu Qing, with his puffy, swollen cheeks, gave him a look. Taming spoke up. They're quite difficult to deal with. So, we must stop this gathering of millions of ghosts, am I right? That's correct, Zhan Wu said. The gathering of millions of ghosts will take about a few months. We will need to stop them before they gather. What if we don't stop them in time? Is there any way to rally? Xie Lian asked. There is, Zhan Wu said. However, hopefully we will not reach that step. The most urgent business right now is the arousal of ghosts had started a wave of chaos, and many of the monsters and demons that had been sealed away have escaped. Many of these are extremely dangerous inhuman creatures, such as that female ghost Zanji, the fetus spirit, the brocade immortal. At this moment they must all be rushing towards Mount Tonglu. They must be immediately apprehended once more. They've all escaped. Xie Lian remarked. Then this is certainly quite the chaos. Which is why I'm afraid every martial god must take heed, and thoroughly investigate their warranted domains, Zhan Wu said. Then, what about me? Xie Lian asked. Although Xie Lian was the god of rubbish at the moment, nevertheless he still ascended as a martial god the last 2 times, and he's basically being used as a martial god right now, too. The only difference was he didn't have a domain. Humming for a moment, Zhan Wu said, Xian Le, why don't you go with Qi Ying? MXTX author's notes. The crown prince is enlightened, so who will confess first? Of course, being aggravated doesn't mean Wawa need to kiss, but Wawa really wants to kiss. Of course he also wants to. End chapter.